Rockaways Productions presents The Casey Waters Show, episode 471, Poverty by America by Matthew Desmond. Hello, I'm your host, Casey Waters. Today I will continue with growth and support in relationship dynamics. Here, I'll look at various relationships we might have in our life, from work to school to family members and intimate partners, and how we could, use a bit of negotiation and listening to get along with each other better. Then, it's on to Poverty by America by Matthew Desmond. Yeah, I lived this, at least for part of my life. I remember working as a houseman at the Anchorage Hilton Hotel many years ago and asking the comptroller if he could please give everyone in the hotel a raise if somehow he could convince the board of directors or stockholders or whatever we needed more money. Because we really did. Even though we had a union, it was pretty ineffective. Our raises averaged about 5 cents a year, and we weren't making much above minimum wage. Perhaps a common theme in America today. Today's background footage will include Little Pisgah Mountain, the mountain where I live. So now, let's continue with growth and support in relationship dynamics. But create a positive situation. Tell him or her they're doing good. And give them some reasons why. Describe things. Listen to what they're saying. And employ active listening. That is, repeat back what they say, paraphrase it, or at least summarize the key points. To prove to them that you really are listening and that you do understand, then move on to your point. So, if you both do that, then you both can understand each other better by using this active listening. Once again, it slows you down a little bit, and it almost seems a little unnecessary saying what somebody said, paraphrasing it, or making a summary of the important points. But that shows to the person you're talking to that you understand them and that you're trying to move forward with things. And that's how you gotta be. You gotta kind of be in that moving forward with things mode. Trying to support each other, help each other, and give each other encouragement. So, we're back to the situation. Somebody made a mistake. Well, instead of instantly talking about their mistake and how they could correct it, you tell them the part of the job they got right. Then you might offer your support to help them in the future on the same project or perhaps something similar. You encourage them by telling them they're doing good or telling them about their positive traits. Perhaps you even teach them a little bit. Perhaps something unrelated. Then, when you feel you have established in this environment where you can tell the person you talking to feels like you care about them, that you support them, that you encourage them in their development and you're willing to teach them. Then you gently slip in their mistake. And hopefully they'll take it well. But of course, even under all this, sometimes they'll still get upset. Sure, sometimes the person you're talking to will think they're incapable of making mistakes. Or perhaps they feel their way is the best way, even though you think your way is the best way. Well, if that's the case, you have to talk about it further. You have to justify your position and listen to their position. Perhaps their position is justified too. You have to somehow negotiate a conclusion, how to do things in the future. Well, these finches are obnoxious, I know. Hopefully they'll chill out. Anyway, this might be fairly difficult to do. Everybody, sees this type of thing a little differently. Some people, it's just the way they are. And they give people support and encouragement and create these positive feedback loops of relating by making who they're talking to feel good about themselves and feel good about you. Then perhaps they're willing to listen to whatever mistakes they made, and perhaps they're willing to correct them. So, part of this, how much you struggle with this relationship dynamics, part of it depends on who you are. Or perhaps all of it depends on who you are. That sets the stage for whether this is going to be easy or difficult, whether you can do it well or not at all. It depends on who you are and where you're from. Yeah, and I'm not talking about what city or street. I'm talking about what imaginary territory you are associated with. Imaginary territories of thought, governed by your value system. As your values change, your imaginary territory you're associated with changes. And so some people, they come from a more cooperative imaginary territory. If you're from the West Side imaginary territory that values, material wealth and values getting ahead at the job at whatever cost, even if you have to lie or deceive or make negative situations for your coworkers to make them look bad. If you're that type of person, doing all this positive feedback loop in relationship dynamics might be a little difficult. At least a little difficult to do it in a sincere and proper fashion. You got to put your heart and soul into this. You got to feel it. You got to believe in what you're doing. Once you hop over to the East Side imaginary territories that value compassion and sharing knowledge and helping each other And even if that means you help each other and then your coworker gets a promotion instead of you because you helped them, it's like, oh well, that's the way it goes and it's okay. For material things aren't everything. It's who you are on the inside, what you value, how you see each other. That's important. And East Side people will often want to support each other and lift each other up instead of compete with each other and exploit each other like they do on the West Side. So on the West Side it's competitive and people exploit each other. Where on the East Side it's less competitive and people support each other, help each other along in the game, so to speak. So on the East Side, perhaps everybody wins, so to speak, or everybody shares in the winner's bounty. Where on the West Side, it's more like winner takes all. The Central region is a blend of both of these two. Sure. If you're Northern, you're a little more extroverted. If you're Southern, you're more introverted. So, people on the East Side, like I am, it might be a little easier, at least in theory, to do this positive feedback loop in relationship dynamics where you learn from each other and encourage each other and support each other. Sure. I feel this is all very important to me. Well, and I guess sometimes I feel I connect and relate to people who I don't even know, who I don't even interact with at all. But somehow, well, perhaps through some weird form of telepathy or whatever, I'm able to help out strangers that I don't even know in situations where I don't even know what's going on. How? With just my feelings and my attitude. And similarly, perhaps people help me without even knowing it, without even knowing me or what I'm up to, with their feelings and attitudes. Sometimes it gives me great joy just knowing I'm part of this process, that I'm helping people. And it could, of course, be only in reality. That is, without telepathy or helping people you don't know in situations you don't even know about. Well, perhaps all that's not true. Perhaps I can't do it. Perhaps nobody can. But you certainly can help out people in regular situations where you're interacting with them and you know what's going on. Well, I guess it gives me great joy knowing that I might be able to do this, help someone out in a spectacular way, help them really learn, grow, and develop, and help them understand who they are and help them understand how to help others. For when you make a person understand how to help other people, well, that makes things better for them. Sure, it's like teaching somebody how to fish instead of giving them fish. You help people out with their situations, but you also teach them how to help themselves further and how to help themselves with their relationships. It all goes back to creating this positive feedback loop where you feel you're on the same team, where you're giving each other positive feedback, where you're willing to help each other, and where you're willing to teach each other, learn from each other, and encourage each other. It's always best to approach people that way, whether it's your classmates or your coworkers, your family, or your intimate partner, or your friends. By creating this environment, well, people will appreciate you more, and things will go smoother. Sure, you just gotta take time to do it. Take time for growth and support in relationship dynamics. Now, it is time for Poverty by America by Matthew Desmond. So now, let's go to page 14, in the middle of the page. In America's meat-packing plants, 2 amputations occur each week. A bandsaw lops off someone's finger or hand. Pickers in Amazon warehouses have access to vending machines dispensing free Advil and Tylenol. Slum housing spreads asthma, its mold and cockroach allergens seeping into young lungs and airways, and it poisons children with lead, causing irreversible damage to their tiny central nervous systems and brains. Poverty is a cancer that forms in the cells of those who live near petrochemical plants and waste incinerators. Roughly 1 in 4 children living in poverty have untreated cavities, which can morph into tooth decay, causing sharp pain and spreading infection to their faces and even brains. With public insurance reimbursing only a fraction of dental care costs, many families simply cannot afford regular trips to the dentist. 30 million Americans remain completely uninsured a decade after the passage of the Affordable Care Act. Now, let's go to page 16, towards the bottom of the page. The job market asks us to start over more and more these days as well. Half of all new positions are eliminated within the first year. Jobs that used to come with some guarantees, even union membership, have been transformed into gigs. Temp workers are not just found driving Ubers, they are in hospitals and universities and insurance companies. The manufacturing sector, still widely mistaken as the fount of good, sturdy, hard-hat jobs, now employs more than 1 million temp workers. Long-term employment has declined steadily in the private sector, particularly for men, and temp jobs are expected to grow faster than all others over the next several years. Income volatility, the extent to which paychecks grow or shrink over short periods of time, has doubled since 1970. For scores of American workers, wages are now wobbly, fluctuating wildly, not only year to year, but month to month, even week to week. America has welcomed the rise of bad jobs at the bottom of the market, jobs offering low pay, no benefits, and few guarantees. Some industries, such as retail, leisure, and hospitality, and construction, see more than half of their workforce turnover each year. Workers quickly learn they are expendable, easily replaced, while young people are graduating into an economy characterized by deep uncertainty. Now let's go to page 23 of Poverty by America by Matthew Desmond. Still, poverty is no equalizer. It can be intensified by racial disadvantages or eased by racial privileges. And which is more primary, race or class? Which is the root of social inequity? And which the branches? Which organ is more important to you, your heart or your brain? Black poverty, Hispanic poverty, Native American poverty, Asian American poverty, and white poverty are all different. Black and Hispanic Americans are twice as likely to be poor compared to white Americans, owing not only to the country's racial legacies, but also to present-day discrimination. The black unemployment rate remains nearly double the white unemployment rate, and studies have shown that black job seekers are just as likely to face discrimination in the labor market today as they were 30 years ago. There has been no progress in a generation. So now, let's go to page 23, in the middle of the page. Today, the wealth gap between black and white family is as large as it was in the 1960s. Our legacy of systematically denying black people access to the nation's land and riches has been passed from generation to generation. Most first-time home buyers get down payment help from their parents. Many of those parents pitch in by refinancing their own homes, as their parents did for them after the government subsidized home ownership in white communities in the wake of World War II. In 2019, the median white household had a net worth of $188,200 compared to $24,100 for the median black household. The average white household, headed by someone with a high school diploma, has more wealth than the average black household, headed by someone with a college degree. Now let's go to page 34, towards the bottom of the page, and continuing on to page 35. But has their success come at the expense of other workers? Do immigrants compete with native-born Americans, driving down wages and pulling more people into poverty? The best research we have on this question finds that the long-term impact of immigration on wages is quite small, and its impact on employment is even smaller. If immigrants competed with native-born workers for jobs, this finding would be head-scratching, even dubious. But immigrants mainly compete with other immigrants for jobs, which means the workers most threatened by new arrivals are older arrivals. For many Americans, wages have stagnated, but immigrants are not to blame. So now, let's go to page 47, towards the bottom of the page, of Poverty by America by Matthew Desmond. It wasn't always this bad. Between the late 1940s and the late 1970s, the American economy expanded and shared its bounty. Honest work delivered a solid paycheck. And a big reason why had to do with union power. Throughout the 1950s and 1960s, nearly a third of all U.S. workers carried union cards. These were the days of the United Automobile Workers, led by Walter Reuther, once savagely beaten by Ford's brass knuckle boys, and one of the mighty American Federation of Labor and Congress of Industrial Organizations that together represented around 15 million workers, more than the population of California at that time. These workers raised hell. The United Farm Workers' 1965 Delano grape strike and boycott lasted 5 years and captivated the American public. In 1970 alone, 2.4 million union members participated in work stoppages, wildcat strikes, and tense standoffs with company heads. Their efforts paid off. Worker pay climbed. CEO compensation was reined in, and the country experienced the most economically equitable period in modern history. Now let's go to page 56, in the middle of the page. As corporations have amassed more market power, they made every effort to keep wages low and productivity high. Increasingly, workers are providing far more value to their companies than their pay reflects, and employers are constantly finding new avenues to squeeze their labor force. Algorithms have proven to be more exacting bosses than people. Those algorithms, powering just-in-time scheduling, have allowed bosses to fine-tune staffing levels to demand, leading to unpredictable hours that cause paychecks to grow and shrink from week to week. Companies have deployed programs that record workers' keystrokes and mouse clicks and capture screenshots at random intervals and have Casey Waters Show. Producer Casey Waters. Graphic editing Judson Laird. Please note our new email address, CaseyWaters2 @CaseyWaters.com.